Now, I just want to remind ourselves, I want to remind us about the end of a Mishnah, which we learned at the end of the 9th chapter, about the need to take an oath. If a woman is trying to recover the sum of her ketubah, she has a charge over all of her husband's possessions. But if the possessions are mortgaged already, or if they belong to orphans, or if they're being recovered from someone who's not present, then she can recover, but she has to swear an oath to the effect that she hasn't already received the ketubah. In other words, she has to swear an oath to the effect that she's not getting paid twice. And it's normal practice in financial law in the Mishnah that if there's any question of doubt, then, and we're not able to bring two witnesses, then we'd ask one of the parties, the claimant actually, to swear an oath. So let's just keep that in mind. And let's just now jump into the 5th Mishnah of the 10th chapter. And we're going to get one of these brain teasers. Mishaya Nasui Arbana Shimumate. Someone was married to 4 wives and he died. How complicated can it get? He's married to 4 wives, and of course they all want their ketubah. And we're going to run in time precedence. We learned this already in the 1st Mishnah of the 10th chapter. So I'm not sure why the Mishnah is telling us again. But anyway, it's coming back to this principle. We work in time precedence, because once someone has married one wife, the subsequent wives can't degrade the financial conditions of the first one. So in other words, the charge that the first wife has over the possessions of the husband is unaltered by any subsequent marriages. So time is important. The first wife has precedence and so on. So let's read on. Harishona kodemet lashniya ushniya lashlishit ushlishit larevi'it. So the first takes precedence over the second over the third, and the third over the fourth. So far, I think probably not very surprising to us, but at least it's running over material that we know we're familiar with. But let's keep going. Harishona nishpat lashniya ushniya lashlishit ushlishit larevi'it. The first actually has to take an oath to the second, and the second takes an oath to the third, and the third to the fourth. So the first one does take precedence, but she has to make an oath that she's only recovering her ketubah once. Because these assets, remember we said in the case where assets are mortgaged, an oath is required. And in the case where a ketubah is waiting to be paid out, well, these assets are mortgaged. So the first wife is going to have to swear that she hasn't already received her ketubah. And the second wife wants to know this, because the second wife otherwise doesn't have a solid understanding of what assets are available. So the first takes an oath to the second to the third to the fourth, and so on. What about the fourth? And the fourth is paid out with no oath. So the fourth just gets the cash. And Ben Nanas is gonna disagree. I'm not sure whether the halakha goes according to Ben Nanas, but the Talmud explains it anyway. Ben Nanas says, should she get rewarded because she's last? She too may not be paid out except with an oath. And the Talmud suggests that Ben Nanas, he's talking about an edge case, an extreme case, but we know the Talmud loves the extreme cases, where the first wife, she's gets paid out, but she gets paid out on property which turns out subsequently to be worthless. So she may come back. She may come back and claim assets from the other wives later. In other words, she may have a claim on the other wives even after they've settled their share of the ketubah, because the assets that she's getting turn out to have basically bad title. And so she might have a claim eventually on the fourth wife. And that's according to the Talmud. That's why Banana says, look, even the fourth wife has to swear it. Let's keep that. That's an interesting feature. Let's keep going. What if they all went out on the same day? That means effectively they all get married on the same day. So how does the precedence work? And we talked before about a situation where 3 women were competing for the same assets, and the Bartanura told us that as the Mishnah explained the division between the 3 women, it was clear that they had to be married simultaneously. Otherwise, one would clearly have had precedence over the other. But if they are married on the same day, how does the precedence work? If they all went out on the same day, so they all married on the same day, then anyone who preceded another, even if only by 1 hour, gets paid out. They've got the prior charge over the assets. And so in Jerusalem, where I guess they did things really properly, in Jerusalem, they actually used to write the hours, the hour of the wedding. Of course, you can imagine the logistical problems of getting the scribe to know exactly when the wedding was going to take place. Maybe this is why they only did this in Jerusalem, because they had plenty of scribes around. And we certainly don't do that today. We don't write that time in the ketubah. And I can imagine it would cause incredible difficulty if a wedding were delayed because of a traffic jam or because someone showed up late. I mean, I could imagine today it would cause incredible trouble to write the time of the ketubah. If all of the ketubot were issued, so yotzot here seems to mean that ketubot came out at the same time. I'm not sure this guy could marry 4 women at the same time. This must be that the ketubot are kind of issued at the same time. If they're all issued at the same time. And the estate's worth no more than a money. So we know that the minimum, we don't know anything about these women, right? But we know that the minimum ketubah, even for a widow, is a maneh, is 100 zuz. So at this point, there must be a claim of at least 400 zuz on the estate. Ein sham eila maneh. There's only the estate is worth no more than a maneh. Then they divide it equally. And again, that's the halacha that we've seen in earlier on in the 10th chapter, that if there's no surplus, if there's no surplus, then everything is divided equally. If there is a surplus, then there's possibilities to divide it according to the value of the ketubot if the widows are dead, or according to their claims on the estate if they're still alive. And that is the close of the 10th chapter of Ketubot, and now we finish dealing with oaths and valuation.